And now here's part 2 of our episode. Okay, George, say more. Say more about why that's so we're talking about the grit, we're talking about the sun, we're talking about the environment, we're talking about I'm being transported. What else makes this the standout track for you?
The way they share the melody, the way they pass the melody around between them. And just the way his name is Noel, went by Paul for the band. Yeah. The way Noel Stuckey's like low bass notes they just make me tremble. They're like, it's because it is so easy. It is so from the depths where this sound is being made, and there's nothing forced about it. Gives me absolute chills. And it's a hopeful song. It's this whole idea about it is, it's like tomorrow's another day, but it's like, but so much more complex than that. Come on, hurry, dude, let's end this day so I can go to bed and rest my flesh that is so weary, and yet hurry up and bring me a new day. And let's not forget about what we use today to make tomorrow. Let's use what we've been through to make tomorrow, which is so hopeful to me, which is so a way through the murk and the anger, right? About circumstances. Yeah. And this song is like, no, don't say, okay, I'm going to start over tomorrow. Say, I'm going to start with what I have, with who I am, with what has happened to me. And I'm going to start.
Send it my way.
Send it my way. Something could be coming.
I think it has to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that, the thing I was struck by listening to, every song on this album was the fact that, it is well documented on this podcast that I am a grunge boy, and I like to feel my feelings through guitar distortion and snarly vocals and whatnot. But like there is I think with folk music in general, this is the case, but especially with Peter, Paul and Mary, is that there is nowhere to hide on these songs. I think you alluded to earlier the fact that, they're delivering this like message through this sweet melody and whatnot. But that's the case for every single song. Like it is just the purity of their voices plus the simplicity of their arrangements and the directness of their lyrics. There's nowhere to hide on music like this. And so you have to be at the top of your game if you're going to deliver on this, because it's all just laid out in the open. And maybe I don't know, I did a little bit of self-psychoanalysis as I was listening to this. I was like, maybe I've never gotten into folk music that much because it is so, they lay everything so bare. And I like being able to hide behind something sometimes, or I like, I like feeling things a different way. But yeah, this song that you're referencing here, it didn't speak to me until you really made me pay attention more to the lyrics, and setting it in current circumstances sort of made it ring in a different way, is what I would say.
I love you, Michael. Don't
you just love him? Goddamn it!
I do, and Michael and I have a relationship with Michael through cherubs and other things. And come on, we haven't talked about the fact that we're all DePaul folk here. Yeah, anyway,
this is true.
It's true. But you are speaking exactly to what I was talking about in terms of it being an emotional conductor. Yeah. In that. Right. In that I too need to cover up. I need to cover up because I'm just this raw nerve and I can't lead people like that. Michael sees it up close and personal a lot. I can't lead people like that. And
we're right there with you.
So I got to put it away. And I see that. And I've always seen that in you too, Michael. You're just a big softie, but you wear this thing, and it means a lot that you
have. I have a crunchy exterior. This is true.
Sweet as pie is what my mom said the first time she met him. She goes, "Well, he's just sweet as pie." That was the intonation too, and I was like, yeah.
The other thing, though, I must say, I had never listened to Puff the Magic Dragon all the way through.
Yeah.
That final verse, Jesus
Rough.
Christ. Oh my
Rough.
God. Like,
Yeah.
this like pleasant little like children's tune, and it gets to the last verse. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing to me? Like,
Yeah.
this is not cool. I don't like this song anymore.
Well, it's more like Grimm. It's more like Grimm's fairy tales at that point, right? It's more like
Kind of.
the macabre kind of fairy tale. And actually, now that I'm saying that, I think there's something about this breezy flower child thing. You see the word flowers and free love and peace and all that kind of stuff being thrown around when Peter, Paul, and Mary are invoked. But I think, George, you're making a really strong point here about how it belies the grit. It belies the reality of saying, well, we're going to have to get up tomorrow, and one way or another, and it might fucking suck. And there's still something, because it's hard to tell people to look at the bright side sometimes when they're experiencing difficulties. And I don't feel like these songs are saying, look at the bright side. I feel like even though there might be some breeziness and there might be lightness, there might be beautiful harmonies, there's something about them that says, we know it's going to suck. and it's sucking together, I guess is kind of where I'm going with that. I'm not sure.
I mean, that speaks so clearly to my Irish heritage. It's like, life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're saying. That's why they're so subversive. And this is why they suck, they suck you in. It's also why comedy can be subversive, right? It sucks you in and gets you listeners that on the face of it would not agree with you, or would think that you were, hippie love child or whatever the heck, or, oh yeah, let's all just love each other. Yeah, well, that's not what it's about. It's about more practical things, right? Mm-hmm. You're right. It is. But guess what? If we aren't loving each other, if we are not like living like it, then what's the frickin' point? And that Peter, Paul, and Mary music sucks you in a way that someone, that a grittier sound is more in line with, and might be more and I don't mean this judgmentally, but might be more repulsive to other listeners, especially at that time. Oh, dirty hippies, dirty hippies.
Well, I guess one other song that you mentioned that I feel we sort of glossed over a little bit here, like this, that Paul Talk followed immediately by Puff the Magic Dragon. Is there sort of a weird, I don't know, you talk about there being like a clear sequence to this whole album. Maybe I don't know if I quite saw it that way. What are your thoughts on Paul Talk? What's going on in that moment?
You can describe it a little bit for the listeners too, if you will.
Sure. Well, so if I get off track, part of what's important about it is directly related to this recording being in Japan. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what it is Noel Stookey was a stand-up comedian. Noel Stookey was not, when Grossman put them together, he was not a folk singer. He was musical, but he didn't know. And he says, I didn't know much about folk music. He came to folk music through Mary and Peter. Peter and Mary were both part of that from the very beginning, part of that world. Here's what I love about this moment. He does some stand-up, right? In a way, in a very I was going to say 70s way, but it's 67. In that it's a whole bit that he makes about, I've got this, I travel with a tape recorder and I record the sounds. Well, he doesn't have a tape recorder. He is making these sounds with his mouth. So it's as corny as it might be, it is this incredibly deft use of the voice to recreate the sounds of Japan.
Yeah.
To recreate the sounds of the boats and the taxis and the pachinko gameplays and all of these things. Yeah. Here's why it's important. It's something that I always think I'm gonna maybe I'm in the mood for music and I'm gonna move past this, and I always get roped into it and I always get sucked into it because here's why. It's 1967, which is in the title. Mm-hmm. This is 22 years after the United States dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
I had
22 years after we had dropped 2 bombs.
Yeah.
I mean, decimated Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I say we, but the United States, right?
Yeah.
For whatever purposes. And here they are. Here are Peter, Paul, and Mary in Japan. There are people that were alive in that audience when they were bombed. There are people that, right? Mm-hmm. And what they do is not just show up and invite them in, and certainly they were their recordings were hit there. There is a real love for Peter, Paul, and Mary in Japan. But what does Noel Stookey do? Noel Stookey stands in front of them and reflects back to them themselves, their sounds, right? They change the lyrics later to, they add lyrics in This Land Is Your Land about Japan. This is, I see you, I am one of you, we're going to connect on this level as human beings. I am bending over to immerse myself here. They use they speak Japanese words. They also had a translator during this section. And here's what I love about this moment is that you think about all this music that's being played, and it's easy to forget that the majority of the overwhelming majority of that audience does not speak English on the level in a fluent way. Mm-hmm. And you hear them responding and singing along and right in the way that you can with languages that you don't understand. But understanding this music and Peter, Paul, and Mary not taking it for granted that they were going to understand this music. No, they are going to do the work to welcome them in, to reflect back to them, to get laughs from them. And part of what I love is that when Paul does a verbal joke, the translator, the laugh doesn't come until after the translator says it, which tells you, right?
Yeah,
and
he's touching something. Yeah,
he's touching something, and he doesn't. And when the laughs that come that don't need the translator are all of his imitations of the sounds of Japan, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't need language. That crosses that barrier. That is a performer in the folk tradition connecting with the audience. That's activism, y'all. That's
travel's
activism.
Cool. That's being a good guest. That's being a good guest is you didn't show up empty-handed.
So does that is that an element of this album that makes it perfect for you? Because we asked you to bring us a perfect album, and there have to be some sort of standards for perfection. I mean, you can also feel free to poo-poo on the word perfect if you want, because we often do. But what do you think?
I love that. Yes, this gave me great anxiety. Choosing the perfect album. I have a relationship to the word perfect, so I'm glad that you let that right. As an actor, you just cannot be a perfectionist. As an artist, being a perfectionist just ruins the whole thing. Sometimes they say to the kids, perfect is boring, right? Mm-hmm. So it's predictable, it's what have you. So part of this picking a perfection was relieved to me when I realized that I was going to propose a live album, because there was another live album that I was going to propose to. There were 2 other, right? Because inherently it cannot be perfect because it is live.
Yep.
Now, like you said, Tyler, the recording I'm sure there was a lot of magic they did, because this wasn't released. This was released from recordings, in 2012 or something?
Yeah, very recently.
Yeah, very recently. I mean, right. So surely they doctored it, and surely there's all kinds of magic they did, right? Mm-hmm. So of course it's beautiful. Of course it sounds great. Remarkable in some ways for a live album, when on Lemon Tree, which is to me not a favorite of their things, but in Lemon Tree, what makes that song, again, another song I always think I'm going to skip past, but then I'm like, but then there's the last verse when Noel and Mary are doing this angelic choir that sound like there are 40 people, and it's just the 2 of them doing this obligato on top of Peter Yarrow singing the melody again, and it transports it in a live setting. So the fact that it was live was definitely. Oh, sorry, I was just making noise. The fact that it was live. I was clapping. I'm a movement teacher, am I?
Yeah.
The fact that it's live was part of its perfection for me, because being live means it cannot be perfect. That the perfection of it is imperfect. The perfection of it are the willingness to be imperfect, the chance you take by going out there and risking that you're going to go flat, or your voice is going to crack, or the mic is going to go out. That to me is part of the perfection here.
So, George, I feel like we've been having an ongoing conversation in this podcast. This seems to come up more frequently than I think Tyler or I would like it to, which is the idea of separating the art from the artist. I mean, we've said many, many times, we still have yet to cover Michael Jackson's Thriller, because we're sort of unsure of what that conversation will be like. Yet we also recognize that the music he made is, a monumental achievement that still many, many people enjoy and still listen to. But regarding Peter, Paul, and Mary, there are some legal issues and some things that Peter has done in the past that we feel would not be responsible of us if we were. It would be irresponsible of us to ignore that. And I guess I wonder if there's anything in particular that you want to say about that, and about if there's anything you want to say about that.
That there's no defense of what Peter Yarrow was convicted of. There's no defense of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a person. Maybe it's because I am an artist and have been paid to do art and make art. So there's a business aspect to it. I'm not a person who, turns the artists I love into saints. I want them to be, I want them to walk the walk, talk the talk, walk the walk. I want them to be what they're representing in their music. So discovering an undefendable, forgivable conviction like this for me, and I'm discovering this. It is part of the reality that people do horrible, wrong things, and throughout history also make incredible art.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say much more than that, isn't it? It's just like there's something. This is an ongoing conversation, as Michael said, that there's also this onus that's put on us, right? I even feel a little bit bad. To even have you in this position right here, because we're not asking you to speak for him, right? We're not asking you to make any apologies for him or to defend it. And so for you to have a love for a piece of art to have a love for this entire body of work that this group has put together and that he was involved with, that I think I'm right there with you with trying to figure out how that coexists with reconciling terrible things that these people do. All right, everybody, here's the thing. We don't have any answers for you. And we're also not in a place where we're going to tell you to stop loving a piece of music, a film, or a book that you love because of the actions of that artist. But we do want to talk about it, because that's why we're doing this thing, right? We're doing this thing to kind of unpack our relationships with artists, and we talk about that parasocial relationship all the time.
I have a thought that maybe you can roll in there.
Please, yeah.
Which is the thing about theater and music in particular, mm-hmm. is that because it is folk, it is nothing without an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Theater is not an art form without an audience. Music is nothing without an audience.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes not the artists. It becomes the audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's a way to go, but for me, that's where I now can take this, and it is mine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what it means is to me, and it does not, I do not have to align with or defend, or I do not have to defend indefensible actions in order to have it be mine.
I think that's actually very well said. We have been not struggling, but we've been really trying to figure out a way to articulate this with past artists, and I'm sure we have some coming up that will cross this line as well. And it's just so hard to find the right language, precision of language, kind of be as precise as possible. And I think you've said it well. You've captured something that I think both Tyler and I believe about the artists that we've covered, and the way we feel about music as well. So thank you for saying that.
Thanks, George. Okay, George, we could talk to you for a long time, I think we could do that, but unfortunately we're trying to keep these damn things under an hour. So I think in that sense,
good luck.
This guy gets it. With that, we're going to move into the done deliberation phase.
I'm going to get us a sound effect for season 8. Getting us a sound effect. We're going to make it happen.
But it's kind of fun to do the done though.
Well, no, we'll record ourselves doing the sound.
Oh, okay. I like where your head's at.
Yeah. I'll put some reverb on it. It'll be great. Okay. Anyway, deliberation.
Yeah.
All right.
You go first. What do you think? What's sticking with you? Lots of stuff moving, stewing around in my stew. What about you?
Well, okay, dear listeners, I'm going to confess that the thing that I'm using to make my decision is actually not anything that George said. Well, not that he said out loud during this recording, but something that he sent in his email to us beforehand regarding like when he was trying to pick his his standout track, which is when he was talking about "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right," and he mentions that it's a Dylan song and whatnot. He said here, and I quote from the email, "It's Dylan's song that PP&M elevated, not the only one. And as much as I admire Dylan's poetry, I never want to listen to his voice. And for that, George Keating, you won me over right there." Because I'm sorry, maybe this is a hot take, but yeah, great songwriter. Give it to someone else to sing. Sorry, everybody, if I just like made some enemies there. But anyway, but
to be fair, he did.
Well, he did. Yes, this is true. I mean, and let's be real, the better recording of All Along the Watchtower is by Jimi Hendrix, but I digress. So yeah, that's where I'm sitting, even though plenty of excellent points were made. Tyler, what do you have to say here?
I'm actually going to pull from something that not from something that George said during this hour. We're completely ruining the pedagogy of this podcast, by the way.
I appreciate being irrelevant.
Yeah.
No, you're not irrelevant. That's not it.
I'm kidding. Sorry.
Here we go. I said we were going to invoke movement to music again, and I got to do it now during the deliberation phase too, because that was where George and I first met. And I mentioned this to you every time I see you, is that you and I met during the class that John Jenkins taught it before, and you took up the banner now, teaching it to TTS students. And maybe we've mentioned it on the pod before, but it was a very formative musical experience for me and at acting school. The Reader's Digest or the Listener's Digest version of this, everybody, is that movement to music, and I'm going to be reductive, is a movement class where an ensemble of actors and an ensemble of theater artists get together and basically create a composition, with a physical composition with their bodies instinctually to the tune of music that is played by a leader. And for years and years and years at the theater school at DePaul University, formerly known as the Goodman School of Drama, it was one Mr. John Jenkins. Heck of a guy. Man, we got to get him on here, don't we?
Yes, get John on here. Get John on.
But this was where my relationship with jazz really took root. And it taught me in some ways, or helped me down the path of kind of accessing music in a different way. And I'm thinking back to this thing that you said about at the very beginning. See, you are relevant. At the very beginning, about how it conducts emotion and how it music works to time travel. It works as a vehicle for us to time travel. And I think that's so astute because it finds us. It finds the real us. When music works, it cuts right through to whatever's actually going on underneath when it's done well. And I think that's been the spirit of what you've said throughout this, why this album works, why it being live, being a live album makes it inherently perfect. It's ephemeral. It's going away, right? But we got this recording of it. So there's something very, very special about that. And I think you've got me all in my feels about how it can change people, how music can really change people. And Michael and I have been doing this for just about 3 years. And anytime that sort of idea comes up, it makes me very grateful for the opportunity to hear somebody articulate that. So I'd say you did pretty well, George. But it's not up to you, Michael. It's up to both of us. Are we going to do it in 3, 2, 1? We're going to do it in 3, 2, 1. Whether he did it, whether he.
Well, yeah, but what are we going to say? Because if we if we have to decide on the language. Because if we both say yes, but in different ways, it's going to sound really weird.
By the way, this is meta. We can decide.
You think this is meta? I'm editing this episode, Tyler. This is all going in.
Fair enough.
Are we giving it to him?
I think we're giving it to him. I think
we're giving it to him. We're giving it to him.
Yes, it goes all the way to 11, George. You did it.
Oh, I do appreciate affirmation. I must say.
That's why we're in this business, right?
Yeah, you try to pretend like you don't want it, but you know what? We all want it.
Yeah, we all want it. Yeah. Oh, George, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this with us.
You two are doing a service. You are contributing to the world. This is I love listening to I can't wait to go back and listen to more. Listening to people talk passionately about music because it's truth. It's truth.
Well, Tyler,
go ahead.
It's been another fantastic season, has it not been?
Oh my goodness, yeah, 3 years. Can you believe it?
We're coming up on it. Yeah.
I love doing this with you, dude. I say it every time. I get a little corny, get a little cheesy, but man, it's a true privilege to do this with you, my friend. And I love every moment we get to do it.
Me too. And let's not get too cheesy though, because we might have a few other, bonus episodes. I don't know.
We always do.
Yeah, I don't know why we're cheeky about this. It's coming up. But in any case, if you're not following us on all the social medias, we're on the YouTubes, we're on the Instas, we're on the Facebooks, and we're even on the TikToks. So, go find us there and follow us. And what else? Anything else we gotta say?
I think that's it, man. Thanks so much, George. What a treat.
Thank you. Love you guys.
Oh, and go listen to the whole album too, because it's available.
Do that.
The whole thing. All right.
Bye. Talk to you soon, y'all. Bye.